Hi guys. So in this video, I will be discussing very important questions that I ask particularly in my interviews. Okay. So whenever I take interview from particular candidate, what sort of question that I ask and I expect from the candidate to answer properly. So those kind of questions I will be discussing. I know like you are thinking about it, like what type of questions have been asked in interviews and how to tackle those kind of tricky interview questions. So those kind of questions I will be explaining you. Okay. So it will contain few data structures questions, few Java questions, and few Spring Boot microservice based questions. Like everything will be covering, okay, so that you will get a glimpse of it, like what type of questions are we mostly focusing upon. Okay, so currently I'm working with Genpact. Okay, so while accessing the candidates, I ask these questions and I judge people based upon them rather than like they will be able to clear the client rounds or not. So I just try to understand their perspective based upon the questions that I ask. So these are the questions that I will be sharing it with you all, so that you prepare beforehand, like what kind of questions you can expect from an interviewer. So without any delay, let's get started. So I have created a question set. So basically, I prefer this for reference while taking interviews of a candidates. Okay. So let me tell you each and every type of questions that I ask from the candidates and I expect them to answer. Okay. So first question is same, like tell me about yourself and what all projects you have worked in. So basically, I expect candidates to answer them in a very well organized or structured way, like what type of work they have done, particularly in the technical aspects, in the technical functionality side, like what all things they have implemented from scratch, or a CR enhancements kind of thing, or any bug they have solved in the project, what all kind of tech stacks they have made use of. Everything I wanted to know from the candidate, so that I get a glimpse of it, like whether they have any hands-on experience or not, or they have just worked upon solving bugs. So those kind of things I will get a glimpse of it. So first question is very important. Spend at least 5 to 7 minutes to answer the first question. Okay. Then, how have you implemented security in your project? This will be my next question. If my focus is on project and to understand like what type of work he has done in the project, and to understand end-to-end functionalities of the projects that person has worked upon, we need to start from the security perspective. Because you know, right, security is very important for a particular application, and maintaining security across all the entire application is crucial. Because you know, right, there are a lot of security threats are coming, and applications are getting hacked, and they are just charging over millions of dollars are getting lost. So security plays a very important and crucial role. So you should be knowing like how to maintain the security across your entire application. Okay, so second question will adhere to that. Then third question, if it is mainly focusing upon freshers or 1 or 2 years experience, they will for them these type of questions I ask, like what is the internal architecture of JVM, how JVM internally works. Okay, what are the components present within that JVM? So those all things, entire things I need to know. Okay, starting from like stack is there, then method area will be there, then heap memory area will be there, then registers will be there. What all things are being worked internally whenever you are starting a application, then what all thing happens inside JVM. So those all things basically I wanted to know from the person, to basically understand like whether he internally knows the things or is just understanding the brief overview of it. So I will get a glimpse of it. Then some output based question I asked to understand like whether he knows how to read the program and get to the flow and get the output or not. So these are the basic kind of questions that I basically ask from candidates. Like if public static void main, then I'm passing printing some statement, then calling method. So it's a bad method, it's printing over here, we are throwing error here. Okay, and then we are printing B, and then we are catching the exception, then printing C, and then finally we are printing D. So what will be the output for this question? So these are the problem statements basically asked to know like whether he's able to understand the exception hierarchy or not. Like errors can be caught or not. Okay, can we print errors if we are calling that? Then whether it will go to catch block or not. So these are some concepts that I will be getting to know, because in interview the time span is very less. We are having just 1 hour, and within 1 hour we need to know the entire thing, how much he is knowledgeable, and is he the good candidate for this particular role or not. So everything I wanted to know in a short span of time. So this input output based question gives us the good idea on it. Okay, then what's the importance of string dot join? Okay, there's a intern method. okay, and string. What's the importance of that? Then I ask questions based upon like constant pool, non-constant pool. How when we are creating the object like string str equal to hello, or we are creating string str equal to new string hello, and then we are comparing the two objects, then where those two object resides, okay, will it point to the same object or not? Okay, so one with constant pool will reside in the string s1 equal to java 1. That object will reside in the constant pool. And if you are making use of new keyword, it will go to non-constant pool. So both are different memory location basically. So s1 will not be equal to s2. But if we are making use of string s1 equal to hello, string s2 also equal to hello, it will point to constant pool in the same location. Okay, so memory location will be same, and those two s1 and s2 will point to same hello. Okay, because we are not making use of new. As soon as we make use of new, it will point to two different object in the non-constant pool. So address will change over here. So these kind of concept based questions are very much important that I ask. And I ask questions based upon oops concepts, like based on inheritance. In inheritance, it's like very important. I've created 3-4 videos on inheritance specifically, like what kind of variations of questions that can be asked in inheritance with respect to exceptions, inheritance with exceptions, inheritance with overriding, method overriding. Okay, what type of exceptions can be thrown? We can mix and match that exception hierarchy based question along with inheritance. Okay, so those are very important, and how inheritance structure works. Okay, then there is dynamic method dispatch with respect to overriding in inheritance concept. So that also is very much important. Okay, then next question I asked basically on coding aspects. I am telling like what all type of questions can be asked over here. Okay, so basically, I focus over here like grouping of anagrams. Okay, so I have to ask questions based upon anagrams grouping. So you know that like anagrams can be like if from similar characters, if we can create the same words, if we can group it in a same group. Okay, so like cat and act. Okay, cat and act both are created from 3 characters A, C, and T. Okay, so we can combine them into one group. So these kind of grouping based problems I ask. Okay, grouping of anagrams. So this is very important. And how can we solve it using streams? Okay, so using lambda function, how can we solve, and how can we solve it in a traditional approach? Both way I ask, so that I can get to know the understanding like whether he knows lambda function interface streams concepts or not. Okay, then how hash map works internally. This is very important question. How hash map works internally, how hash set works internally, and how hash set is internally linked to hash map. Okay, so these kind of questions are very much important. And there is hash code and equals contract is also there. So whenever you are making use of hash set and you are making use of certain employee object or student object, so you need to override hash code and equals method over there to make hash set or hash map works properly. So why it's like that? So those kind of questions I also ask. Then some output based questions. So it totally depends. I don't ask all the question. I just pick few questions from them and I do mix and match, like one coding question, 1 to 2 coding question I tell them to solve. Then some output based question I ask. Then some theoretical base. I just mix and match and ask questions. Okay. Then calculating the size, like if I'm adding all these employees into the hash set, then what's the size of the hash set? If all the properties are same, like employee id, employee name, employee salary, age, address, everything is same for 3 employees, then what will be the size of the hash set basically? So this type of question, if you know, just ping it in the comment box so that I can get to know like whether you know about this asset concept or not. This is very important question that's asked to me in product based company. So just prepare for these type of questions. Okay. Then which Java 8 features have you worked upon in your project? So there are various kind of Java 8 features that you have worked upon, right? There can be Lambda, Stream, functional interface, datetime API, internally implemented functional interface. Some Java internal functional interfaces are there. What are the abstract methods present in those functional interfaces? Like predicate is having test method, consumer is having accept method, consumer is having consume method, function is having accept method, supplier is having supply method. So these kind of things you need to be knowing. Then terminal and intermediate operation in streams. Okay, what are terminal and intermediate methods? Those kind of questions. Then why we are going for streams? Because we were having collections before. Why we are going for streams? What's the importance of that? Those kind of questions are also asked. Okay. Then some scenario based problem, like hospitals are having some patients, like there is a like one-to-many relationship. One hospital can have many patients. So how will you implement this kind of scenario via API? So if some new patient is getting admitted to the hospital, how will you register their details into database? And if they want to leave for 1 month time, then how will you update the details with respect to medical expenses? So those all details we tell them to implement end to end with respect to API by giving certain scenario, so that I can get to know like whether he knows the concept of hibernate mappings or not, like one to many, many to one. In that there is a cascading concept. So are you having awareness of those things or not? So I basically check on those terms. Then what all design patterns have you worked upon in your project? Okay, so before to that, let's tell about solid design principle. So solid design principle is also very important, specifically the risk of substitution one with real-time scenario. So that also I focus upon more. Okay, then design patterns, I ask like what all design patterns not you know, but you have implemented in your project. So there may be 15-20 design patterns in gang of four, but there are specific design patterns that you have implemented in your project. So I wanted to know that, like why you have chosen that design pattern over others. So I focus more on that and I go deep into it. Okay, then I tell them to implement that design pattern by taking an example of their own choice with real-time scenario, so that I can get an idea like whether he has implemented or she has implemented that design pattern or not. I get a glimpse of it. Then the question on immutability, like give me an example of a immutable class and how can I make any class an immutable class if that class contains any string value, string variables or list or map or set, anything. If it contains, then how can we create that class a immutable class? So those type of questions I ask them. Then there is a concept of shallow copy and deep copy within that immutability concept basically. So if the person is telling about that shallow copy and deep copy by themselves, then I don't go much into depth of this. But if they don't tell about these an immutability question, then I ask this question explicitly, because this is very much important for interview perspective. Like what's the difference between shallow copy and deep copy? How you create these type of copies in your project? Okay, then what is concurrent modification exception with example? I tell them to write a code and implement this concurrent modification exception. Okay, and how will you resolve this type of problem? So these type of questions I ask. Then what is singleton class? These all type of questions are covered in design pattern only. If the person tells like yes, I have made use of singleton design pattern, then I tell them to implement the entire singleton design pattern. With respect to multi-threaded application, how will you implement singleton design pattern for multi-threaded application? So these type of questions I ask. And how can I break singleton design pattern and how can I resolve that? There are three levels of question. One is what is singleton design pattern, how to implement singleton design pattern end to end, how to break singleton design pattern, and how to resolve that broken singleton pattern basically. So basically there are three ways to break and how to resolve that. Those kind of questions I also ask. Okay, then there is a volatile keyword usage in singleton class. If you know about that reference variable, it is of volatile type. Why we are creating volatile type? Just guess it once. Because we want to make visibility guaranteed across entire threads. Okay, this is one liner I am telling you that there are a lot of things to it, okay, to understand it in depth. So this is the question that I asked. And solid principle I already covered. Then producer consumer problem in thread. So in thread there can be n number of questions, some coding based problems to print alternate 1 2 3 odd and events, some producer consumer based problems can be asked. Then there is like executor framework based questions, like if you are making use of fixed thread pool, cache thread pool, scheduled thread pool, why you are using those thread pools, what are the reasons, give me some real time scenarios. So those kind of questions I ask. Then synchronization based question, like are you synchronizing a class or method or a block? Why are you going over block based synchronization rather than method level synchronization? So those kind of question, and how can you implement that? Then deadlock based question I ask. Then lock based question I ask, like read write lock, reintrant lock. Why we are making use of lock when we are already having synchronized block or synchronized method? So those kind of questions I prefer to know from the candidate, like whether he knows the in-depth thing of making use of lock. Okay, like where to use lock, where can I make use of synchronized method more. Okay, so those kind of questions I ask. Then aggregation versus composition, these are also very important for interview perspective. They will tell you to implement aggregation concept, they will tell you to implement composition concept. So how to implement that I will focus. Then difference between these type of access modifier, protected and default. This is mostly asked questions for freshers, basically up to 2 to 3 years experience. These kind of questions are very important. Protected and default access. It looks similar, but there is a difference. So if you know, comment it down. I will just get back to you when you comment it. Okay. Then some coding questions based upon streams. Okay, like some Java Ruby struts one string, then Spring Java another string, then Spring Python one string. Then we have to find a count of unique strings in the string array. So if you see, Java is common here, so we don't need to print two Java. We need to print a count of this Java. Okay, with the string. So whatever string I'm mentioning over here, I need to know the count of that string. So this you have to implement it. So you can implement with the help of flat map, basically. Okay, you can flatten it and then you can get to know the count of it. Then this is two sum problem, two sum and three sum problem. This is very important for interview. Like you have been given an array, and in this array you need to see like which pairs will sum up to the given target value. Okay, so then we will get the output. So these kind of questions I prefer. There are multiple ways of doing it. You can do it via hash set, you can do it via hash map. Okay, there are multiple ways to do it. You can do it via brute force. So basically you need to optimize it with O and time complexity. Okay, so how to do that? It's very important. And we don't need to print the duplicate. Like if I'm printing 9.2, I should not print 2.9. If I'm printing 5.6, I should not print 6.5. So these kind of things you need to be aware of. Then I'm giving some scenario to the person, like key can be any string value. Okay, then a value can be employee object. We are passing employee ID, employee name, and employee address. Okay, or location. Then I need to sort the employee based upon city. And if city is same, it can be possible, right? Two employees can have same city. So if city is same, then we have to sort the employees based upon their names. So like that, we need to do it. So there can be two ways to do it. One is traditional approach and collection, and then second is via stream API. So both I ask. Okay. Then print number of employees in each department. So there is grouping by concept over here. So this is also kind of question I ask. Then this is one output based question. Okay, so you can go through that. So this is inheritance based question that I already told you, right? There is dynamic method dispatch, method overriding concept, and then we are combining it with constructor based problems in inheritance. So how to resolve those? And I haven't involved here exception handling and yeah, exception handling I haven't added because that is a different question that we can create out of it. Okay, so I've created a normalized code. So this is also very important for interview. You can just ping me the output for this code if you know. Okay, without checking it by yourself. Okay, without checking it and running it, you have to tell out in the comment box below. Okay, then some Spring Boot and REST API based questions. Okay, so Spring Boot, like what's the purpose of Spring Boot application annotation? What are its components? Okay, those kind of questions. Then what are stereotype annotation? Like controller, service, repository. These all are stereotype annotations. Okay, then stereotype annotations can be written interchangeably, right? So can we write it or not? What are the impacts if we interchange stereotype annotations? So those kind of questions I ask. Then what is a bean? What's a bean life cycle? How to configure them? How do we write @bean? Where do we write @bean? Over a class or over a method? What are the scopes of the bean? Okay, these all kind of questions I ask. And what are the types of dependency injection? Okay, like auto-wire by type, auto-wire by name. They are like various kind, constructor-based dependency injection, and setter-based dependency injection. Okay, then Spring Boot starter parent. This is also very important. Okay, just research this Spring Boot starter parent. If we write in form.xml. Okay, so it doesn't download the dependencies. Okay, I'm telling you that. So don't tell this thing in the interview like it helps to download all the dependencies and put it in the class path. It doesn't do that. So basically it checks only the versions of all the dependencies you have put it in form.xml, like those are all in sync or not. Okay, in what are stereotype annotations? I already told you. Put versus patch is very important. They do like similar thing, 80% similar, but patch is based on a particular column. Then how to handle exception, like exception handling in Spring Boot. Okay, we are adding like exception handler. Okay, so we are creating a separate class for that. So those kind of questions based upon that I ask, like how will you validate the inputs? Okay, by exception handler. So those kind of questions. If you want to create a new class, custom exception class, how can you create that? So those kind of questions I ask. Then caching in Spring Boot application. So in Spring Boot application, we can make use of Redis caching. Okay, so how can we implement that? And have you implemented caching in your project or not? Okay, and in which kind of use cases we can make use of caching in your project? So those kind of questions I focus upon. Then Hibernate mapping, like one to many, many to one, cascading, why we are making use of cascading, importance of cascading concept. So those kind of questions I focus upon. Then what are the best practices of using REST API? Okay. Then what are stereotype annotations? I already told. How do you monitor health, like health check of your application? So this is very much important. Okay, health check. How will you do it in Spring Boot application? That you already know. Okay, so there the question can be like, if I have to do custom health checkup, so how can we do that? Okay, so these all things is very important. Okay, then in microservice there's distributed transaction. So this was asked to me in Nagaro, like what is a distributed transaction in microservice? Okay, so these kind of questions can be asked. Okay, then questions can be like how to make your microservice fault tolerant. Okay, then how two microservices will interact with each other. What is the API gateway? Have you used it in your project or not? What are the disadvantages of microservice? This is very much important. Like disadvantages of all the things which you are using in your project, like disadvantages of REST API, disadvantages of microservices, disadvantages of like particular SQL which you are using. So these kind of questions can be asked. Then horizontal versus vertical scaling. Which one when will you go for and why? Okay, in which kind of scenarios? Those kind of questions can be asked. Okay. Then how are you mocking this? JUnit based questions can also be asked. Like how will you mock static method? How will you mock private fields? Okay, how will you mock private methods? Okay, how will you mock constructor? Is it possible or not? Static method, final fields, final methods. How will you mock these? Importance of power mockito. So those kind of questions can be asked. Then futures, completable futures based question. This I forgot to tell you in multi-threading, like future and completable future difference. Those kind of questions. Runnable, callable based questions. So these kind of questions are pretty important for interviews. So just go through that once. Okay. Then some SQL based question like when to go for relational DB and when to go for non-relational DB. That type of question can be asked to you. Okay. And how to optimize the fetch operations. Okay, so there can be millions of hidden database. So how will you optimize the insertion as well as fetch operation? So how Spring Batch can help you resolve, like if you want to save millions of records into spreadsheet, okay, or get the data from the spreadsheet or Excel and you want to put it into your database. Millions of records are there. How can we resolve it via Spring Batch? I have already created a video on Spring Batch on these aspects. You can go through that video to get the answer for this. Then if I want to fetch the employee with second largest salary, third largest salary, how will you write the code for that without using limit function? Okay, in SQL. So this type of question can be asked, and similar question can be asked in streams as well. If I want to fetch the nth largest salary using streams in Java, so there is a limit method for that. To obstruct, like I want to go for nth, I don't want first, I want to go for nth largest or nth smallest. So there is a limit. Okay, and there is a skip method is also there. So you have to make use of these methods, and then you have to implement this logic basically. So this is not there with SQL, but this is there with Java when you are making use of streams concept. To use skip method properly to implement this concept, to fetch employee with third largest, fourth largest, or nth largest. For SQL, there will be window function will be there. There will be rank function will be used, or we can make use of limit, but limit they will tell you not to make use of limit because it is one liner simple thing. Then you can tell about subqueries. Then they tell like if it is nth, we can't make use of subquery. Then window function and rank method is more used. Okay, dense rank method. So those techniques you need to learn. Okay, so these are basic type of questions that I ask. Okay, and with respect to data structure, I've already told you some two, some three, some problem in arrays. We can ask about two pointer sliding window based problems. You can go through lead code and hacker rank or interview bit. You will get the questions based upon that. Okay, then string manipulation based problem. These are mostly asked in service based companies. Like how will you print this string from backward by maintaining the position? Like string manipulation based questions can be mostly asked. Okay. Then serialization, deserialization based questions can be asked. Externalization based questions can be asked. Okay. Then questions on binary search is very much important that I got into Walmart. Okay. So in Walmart, I got into this binary search where the entire array is not sorted. Either left part is sorted or right part of the array is sorted. So how will you resolve those kind of problems using binary search? So this is a modified binary search based problem. Then sorting based problems can also be asked. Like if you want to do it via quick sort, if you want to sort, this is having the least time complexity across all type of sorting. So how will you implement that? So those kind of questions can also be asked. Okay, then these are basic level arrays, strings. Okay, then some backtracking based or recursion based questions can also be asked with respect to Fibonacci. You have to print Fibonacci with recursion. Without using for loop, you have to print numbers from 1 to 10. How will you do that? So for that, you need to make use of recursion. And all other recursive type questions can be asked. Recursion, backtracking, arrays, strings, this linked list. Okay, linked list is very much important, like where to insert. Okay, how to insert at the middle, at the end, at the first. Okay, and they can ask you like, how can you write custom array list or custom map or custom set. Okay, so these kind of questions you also need to be prepared. If you want to create your custom linked list, so how will you prepare end to end? Like insert at a head, insert at a second position or nth position. You have to write your custom logic for that. So those all things also you need to be prepared with. And I got that type of questions in one of the interview. So I hope you got to know like what all type of questions I ask and what is expected as of now in the market. So go ahead and nail your next interview and just comment it in the comment box if you have cleared any of your interviews. So see you in the next video with the next set of topics. Till then, it's Debjit signing off. Bye bye. Hey everybody, I provide consultation calls or one-on-one session calls or one-on-one mock interviews as you, so that you can ace ahead in your IT interviews, okay, and crack the big service based or big product based organization. So how can you do that? So I am taking mock interview sessions, so you can go ahead in the description box below and you can register a book a call with me, okay, one-on-one session call, and we'll be having a one-on-one conversation on either of your topic. Like if you want to clear your doubts, that also we can have 1 hour consultation call, or if you want to book for resume session, that also you can book. If you want to have a mock interview session, that also you can book. So those all kind of consultation I provide, and we are also having all the resources that has helped me to crack the Java interview. That has also I have attached in the description box below. So go ahead in the description box, click on the link, and then download all the resources that has helped me to crack the interview. And if you want to go through all the interview series, then there's a 34 interview series playlist videos that I have attached in this comment box, in the description box below. So go ahead and watch that as well. So it will help you boost your interview skills, and you can clear your interview like ease.